solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week. This is the middle of the week, sometimes referred to as Hump Day, a day that we have to hear from the camel. Play it, man.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's Hump Day.
Whoop, whoop. Yes, it is. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon, but right now it is Hump Day. You are halfway to the weekend. Congratulations on that mile marker. In the meantime, that's JP pushing buttons on the board. Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You've been watching all the memes on the Ted Cruz, Tucker Carlson.
Oh, geez, man. I was listening to the full thing when it was released earlier today. It's quite tense.
I think I said earlier, it's the two smartest men in the room going at it.
Yeah, probably the most tense interview I've ever watched.
Did they come to blows?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Verbal blows.
I guarantee you someone's going to create an AI video of them jumping out of their chair and going kung fu on each other. All right, listen, we got a great show laid on for you. Coming up at the beginning of hour number 2, we got our friend Emily Jones, founder of Moms for Liberty in North Alabama. Oh, by the way, the podcaster known as the Controversial Mom. We'll have her on at the beginning of hour number 2, Emily Jones. And then it's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. You know what that means? Top of the third hour, we jump into the Grand Council with my brethren in talk radio, Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. So, yep, we'll do the Grand Council at the beginning of hour number 3. And there's still a triple dipper, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, home fries. Oh yeah, man, you gotta pay attention to what's happening in your backyard. Can't always be about what's happening in foreign countries or in Washington, D.C. or whatever else. No. Sometimes you got to look around in your own backyard, see what's happening, what's up, cook up a batch of home fries. That's number 1 of the Triple Dipper. Number 2, you're going to hear about it in my monologue in a minute, and you're going to hear about it in a dipper. The migration dissipation. You guys, we have some serious numbers right now, and they are the absolute opposite of what they used to be under the Biden administration. I'm going to tell you about the migration dissipation, which is just epic to look at. Stand by for that. Number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, going to fix a little bit of what Joe broke. Oh my gosh, the Biden administration, the auto pen, they broke so much stuff. And I got great stories about things that the Trump administration is just fixing, just putting back in place. So number 3 on the Triple Dipper, I'm just calling it fixing what Joe broke. Stand by for that. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys that attorney Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, and Stan McDonald is indeed your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a few minutes. All right, let me just start off by saying that in case you haven't seen it, the U.S. just hit a major milestone. I mean, like major. For the past 4 years, our border region has been ransacked by illegal immigrants storming across the Rio Grande, climbing fences, fighting with Border Patrol. The scenes were sometimes like some kind of an apocalyptic movie with hordes of people gathered in the thousands at times under border bridges or making human chains across the river, stuck in barbed wire barriers. In December of 2023, brace yourselves for this, in December of 2023, Customs and Border Patrol reported over 370,000 illegal aliens encountered at the border in just 1 month. 370,000 in 1 month. Y'all, that's not even a border anymore. That's a super highway. That's millions upon millions of people with no regard whatsoever or respect, by the way, for our laws, deciding when they want to come, not when we want them to come. Imagine for a minute if you had neighbors from down the street who pirated your utilities or borrowed your lawnmower or slept in your bed or ate food from your refrigerator and they just came and went into your house whenever they please and used your stuff. Well, that's what our southern border has been like for 4 years. But this month, wow. This month, they just announced a milestone. Just 2.5 years ago, we had over 370,000 illegals encountered in 1 month with upward of 4,000 to 5,000 per day. Can you imagine? And the vast majority of those were released into the U.S. But last month, under the Trump administration, May of 2025, we had multiple days where less than 100 were encountered in a single day. And in the entire month of May, 0 were released into the U.S. 0. Let that sink in. We went from 370,000 to 0. It's never been about anything except leadership. You know why? Because leadership matters. We're watching what determined leadership can actually do. This may be the single largest statistic to define the first 4 months of Trump 2.0. But I got to tell you, though, there's still too much to be done. Not too much. There's still a lot to be done. Just yesterday, our friends at 1819 News, they reported that a major bust took place just down the road from the Rightside studios in Blount County, Alabama. State and federal law enforcement, in conjunction with U.S. Attorney's Office for North Alabama, busted an illegal cockfighting ring. 60 people were arrested in one swoop. 60 people, of which 55 were illegal aliens. What that tells you is the problem still exists. The problem is very real. The problem is also right here in your backyard. And I'll go one step further and point out that for there to be 55 illegal aliens at an illegal event clearly indicates that there's an entire subculture running just under the fringe of our cultural cloth of America. Look, they're not assimilating by and large. Millions came here illegally, and they are running in a cultural divide right now. In Foley, Alabama, just recently, a Honduran national assaulted a federal police officer, just like in the last couple of days. 2 weeks ago in Mobile, the sheriff's department intercepted a van that was transporting 28 illegal aliens. Last month in Huntsville, the U.S. Attorney's Office indicted 8 illegal aliens for various crimes committed while they were here on U.S. soil. An illegal alien in Coleman was just arrested last weekend for abusing a child. Another illegal alien was arrested for scamming elderly citizens down in Spanish Fort last week. The list goes on and on and on. And that's all right here. Look, we might be a red state, but the problem is as much ours as any other state in this nation. But we are definitely seeing a new day. I mean, the numbers at the border, wow. Those numbers on the border crossing, those are just one of the good news stories. I mean, recent news also indicates that Customs and Border Patrol has seen a surge in recruitment, and the morale among the rank and file at CBP has increased dramatically. Homeland Security reports in the last 4 months, they've had a 44% increase in Border Patrol applications. 44%. But then there's also the shift in self-deportations. Look at this. The Trump administration is definitely carrying a big stick right now, but they're not above dangling some good carrots. The CBP One app, remember that? The CBP One app that the Biden administration used to help speed up illegal entry into the U.S. has been flipped into a self-deportation app to help speed up people leaving voluntarily. And the Trump administration is actually paying people to leave the U.S. And estimates are that nearly a million have chosen to voluntarily leave. Every detained illegal alien costs an estimated average of around $17,000 to the U.S. taxpayer while they're being detained and then deported involuntarily. But Trump's team is paying illegals $1,000 if those leave on their own, and 1 million of them have done it. Well, that's just good news. Look, the Washington Post claims 1 million foreign-born workers have now exited the workforce since March. That might sound scary at first, but the Washington Post went on to say that this is, quote, a sign of the weakening of the labor supply, but the paper then also noted that average hourly wages accelerated, rising by 0.5% over the month to $36.24 in May. That means earnings are continuing to beat inflation in a boost to worker spending power. All of that with fewer illegal immigrants. Businesses have then had to go around and actually hire Americans. Look, this is all good news. And there's still so much left to do, but the doing is amazing right now. And the numbers speak for themselves. But I remind you of the stakes, though. I've told you before that history dictates that those nations who fail to control their own borders cease to be viable on the world stage. And historically speaking, the fall of Rome was one of the clear indicators. Historians wrestle with the factors that caused Rome to fall, but there are a few they agree on. I got to tell you, when I read the list and compared it to where we were going as a nation in most recent years, I got this eerie feeling the fall of Rome was like some sort of deja vu. Just a few of the factors that led to the fall of the great Roman Empire. Listen up and compare. One of the most prevalent theories is the weakening of the Roman society by mass migrations of people across Europe who were seeking out another location to live. I mean, literally, whole tribes and subcultures just up and moved and occupied the territories of Rome and began to draw from Rome's resources without any predicate or permission. Some would say that Rome no longer had borders, and the lack of cohesion and say-so over who was and was not occupying space within the Roman Empire caused a massive degradation of their logistical and national capabilities. Does that sound familiar? It should. I just saw today that the state of Massachusetts is approaching the $1 billion mark on what they're spending to give shelter to illegal aliens. $1 billion. Look, millions per year were flooding across our southern border unchecked. We're never going to be a closed nation. We never have been. We never will be. We're not the hermit kingdom of North Korea, but yet we are a nation, and a nation without borders ceases to be geographic, even political, if those borders are left unchecked. So yeah, another one of the factors, though, that contributed to the fall of Rome is what is referred to as the weakening of the Roman legions. In that case, it was most of history saying that Rome's military was the envy of the ancient world, but during the decline, the makeup of the once mighty legions began to change. They were unable to recruit enough soldiers from Roman citizens, and so emperors like Diocletian and Constantine, they began hiring foreign mercenaries to prop up their armies. And the ranks of the legions eventually swelled up with Germanic Goths and other barbarians, so much so that Romans began using the Latin word barbarus in place of soldier. They had little or no loyalty to the empire. Many of the barbarians who sacked the city of Rome and brought down the Western Empire finally had earned the military stripes they had while serving in the Roman legions. What that indicates is that when a society begins to rely on residents who don't assimilate into the culture, who don't adopt the customs, who have no sense of national pride and don't join the culture overall, all it does is degrade your cultural identity. Everything from language and governance and education and productivity begins to take a hit, with a slow erosion of a nation's actual provenance beginning to fade from memory. Does that sound familiar? Yes, it does. We have millions who have chosen not to assimilate. And yet we're being told by the mainstream media, we got to have them. We got to rely on them. That's how we pick our crops. That's how we clean our bathrooms. Come on. But the reality is that's no different than the Romans relying upon barbarians who could care less about their culture, and it degraded their society overall. At the height of the Roman Empire, it stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the Euphrates River, but its feckless leaders got lazy and lost control over their borders, even their cultural identity. But what we're watching right now in modern history, what we're watching with the numbers that tell us that 0 illegals were released into the United States last month, after hundreds of thousands were allowed in 1 month just 2.5 years ago. What we're watching right now is what I call a plugging of the breach. It's more than just stopping the illegals. It's about saving our nation. And the numbers right now, yeah, they're going in all the right directions. So yeah, take heart, because these numbers may be the biggest numbers to come out of Trump 2.0 as yet. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. I'm telling you, man, those numbers are amazing. Think about what we talked about on this show for like 4 years now. And now I'm watching it come down to the point that it literally just took a change of leadership, just a change of leadership. It wasn't really about whether we had a new law or we had new policies. It's about the fact that we have a new president. Bill Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. you're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Text lines are open. Text lines, text it. Come on. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Couple of them are already in. The person who never tells us who they are, who texts in occasionally. Anyway, whose number ends in 1299. They say, that's all great, but our weak Republicans have thus far not legislatively codified this action. If and when the administration changes, this can all be aggressively undone. Well, you realize that bill's still pending. So, yeah, that's true. That's why the big, beautiful bill is still floating through, and they're working out the spending issues. But I don't think anybody in the big, beautiful bill debate is got an issue with the border strengthening. But we're also seeing a lot of stuff that's happening. I mean, here's the thing, too, on that. The wall's being built again. Once the wall's built, it's not likely someone's going to go take it back down. So things are happening right now at a rapid clip, and it's making a difference. Anyway, I am extremely optimistic. Why would I not be? Look at those numbers. Dave from Capshaw, Alabama says, we got Fort Rucker. I didn't see this story. 1819 News, Fort Rucker is beginning its name change process. That's good. I did not know that. He says, Phil, you may have heard mentioned this. Fort Rucker begins the name change process. Ceremony planning underway. Fort Rucker was previously named after Confederate soldier Edmund Rucker, and now it's Fort Rucker named after World War I hero Captain Edward Rucker. Liking it. What did they also say? Did you see the meme?
No, I didn't.
We saw, was it yesterday when they were talking about the Ayatollah said there would be a big surprise that the world would talk about for hundreds of years, which nothing happened.
Yeah.
So Babylon B. Ayatollah reveals big surprise with how much he saved on car insurance by switching to Geico. Okay. Now, listen, thank you, JP.
There you go.
I didn't know what your hand signals meant. I gotta go back and tell you guys. Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. Listen, I know Stan personally. I think the world of him. I can tell you right now he's a great attorney, but I can also tell you he's a longtime conservative, like a warrior in the trenches, doing all the things that right-side ruffians care about. So yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. I mean, he can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald is on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So you need an attorney in North Alabama. I'm going to tell you how to reach him. Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man. Here's his phone number. You ready? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. Oh, yeah. No representation made. The quality of legal service be performed. Grade the quality of legal service for the lawyers. Shut my mouth. Just like that, the music starts.
It's another 10.
What else could be said? I'm just saying. And by the way, he's a freaking good lawyer. I don't care what that disclaimer says. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains that we like to call Auburn. Once again, going across the border to what we now once again call Fort Benning. Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that, my friends, is just the radio. Then there's, oh, by the way, all of y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, watching us live streaming on YouTube, on our website, on X, on Facebook, and then podcasters. Thank you very much. We just appreciate this audience. And I have to, at least once an hour, I have to say that. We just appreciate this audience more than you could possibly know. Newsflash, by the way, we have a new flagpole at the White House. And it looks darn fine, too. I got to admit, it is gorgeous.
Out of Trump's own pocket.
He paid for it. Took out his wallet, used his own American Express, I guess. But yeah, but the American Express, you get it? Yeah, the official flagpole now stands directly in front of the White House. And you got to look at it and wonder, why haven't we had one there before?
Yeah. Right, guys. This is before had a little tiny one at the top next to like where the snipers are.
Just a little
like,
little
I think that's the American flag.
A little pennant up there. But yeah, they got this is like what a 100-foot tall
on the north and south lawn. So
it looks awesome.
By the way, we got some YouTube comments
Yeah,
in our social media. Well, first, John from Huntsville checking in. Says happy hump day, everybody. Racing on Facebook says awesome monologue as always, brother Phil.
Thank you.
We also got the Drummond Marine on YouTube says Fort Rucker, thumbs up. Well, super duper. And then David from Bucky's on the YouTube says my son's birth certificate says Fort Rucker, Alabama. After spending 6 years there, I'm glad to see it getting its last name back.
Nice. Yeah, David Bucky's, he actually texted the show right before we started, and I actually replied back to him that he saw the Mike Durant podcast that came out last night and said that he was at Rucker as one of the chief finance officers there, and may have even processed Mike Rucker's pay for all he knows.
Huh, how about that?
Mike Durant's. Yeah. Speaking of which, I got to say that every time we come out one of the new Just Right podcasts, I'm thinking that's the best one, and then lo and behold, the next one comes out, and I'm like, wow, that may be the best one. Anyway, this was an amazing conversation with Mike Durant, the helicopter pilot from Black Hawk Down. We talked about his life. We talked about his principles, what he stands for, how he would developed. We got basically a life conversation with him, but then we certainly, in great detail, unpacked the Battle of Mogadishu and the Black Hawk Down incident and his role in that. And it's an epic conversation. If you've ever read the book or seen the movie Black Hawk Down, you're going to want to see this interview with Mike Durant, because I thought that I already had, studied and gotten the details, and he's telling me things I'd never heard before. So anyway, great stuff. Check it out. The Just Right podcast with Phil Williams. It came out last night. It is on our YouTube, on our website, and it is a good one. Brian from Harvest checking in says, one of the big things that I'm worried about with us getting into the Israel war is how many sleeper cells. Yeah, sleeper cells could have come into the country during Biden's administration because of the illegal immigrant crisis. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. We have no way of knowing. I mean, we caught hundreds that were on the terror watch list. And if we caught hundreds, how many did we not see? We know there were millions of gotaways.
Yeah, but the gotaways.
Yeah.
I mean, Director Ray said that himself before Congress. I can't remember the number exactly, but that like the record number of gotaways, and then they could even be wrong on the gotaway number. It could be even higher than they predict, So it's if the gotaway number they have is that, I imagine how many gotaways they don't even know about. So
yeah. So I completely agree. I think there were a lot of bad actors that came across. No, I think a lot of them were criminal element as opposed to terror element. But I do believe that there's a strong possibility that terror cells are in the country, and the open borders. By the way, that's northern and southern borders. Think about it. If the southern border is where the crowds are and where the notoriety is, then easier access is to come across the northern border, because getting into Canada was super easy. And then you just come on down in. And we got the world's longest, I think it's the world's largest geographic border between nations is Canada and the United States.
Yeah, and like you said, all the resources went down south, so then they just took cakewalk across the northern border.
Yeah, just go ahead and, walk through.
But when the Iranian state media put up that message about how something was going to happen last night that would be generational or whatever, I think my first comment to you off air was that I was worried if that was something within our borders, that they have sleeper cells or something. But then I think I also said it's probably going to be like 50 drones that all get shot down on the way to Israel, and then that's it. That's typically how it is. They bloviate a lot.
They do bloviate a lot. And I think they do that for their own people. They know it's not going to make a difference to us, but they do that so they can sound tough to their own people. Right now, my understanding is, and this is not the topic for the show, but my understanding is that the man on the street, so to speak, in Iran is just like fed up with the Ayatollahs. There's a great deal of growing dissatisfaction with the tyranny of the Ayatollahs. And so it's going to be interesting to watch and see whether or not the people who put him in power with their own internal revolution have their own internal devolution and get rid of the Ayatollahs. We'll watch and see. Jeff Rowe from Indiana says, "Hey, Phil, we're going to have to make it so that the president cannot commit what I think is treason because he's caused irreparable harm by allowing a foreign invasion of sorts. What would be the difference if we were attacked by another nation and the president said for the military to stand down and let them come in? In my opinion, there's no difference." Look, man, I think we're also going to find that some of the things that the president, I say that with air quotes, Joe Biden did or authorized, maybe he didn't truly do or authorize. Their hearing started today on that. John from Huntsville, JP gets a 10-point deduction for allowing Phil to read several text messages before the Stan McDonald bit. How did I?
That's my fault.
I cannot allow you to be thrown under the bus like that. I accept full responsibility. John knows this show way too well. Are we that ingrained in our habitual behaviors?
Well, he said it's because last time I did that, I cut you off from reading his text and you never read it again. So I think he is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And JP stopped him and he never did get back. Yeah, I see it. Okay. Alex from Elkmont says, needed you guys today. Thank you for everything. Alex, we can't do it without you, man. So thank you very much. We're glad you're here. All right, listen, I got to tell you before we jump into today's topic, and Emily Jones calling in about 20 minutes, there's an update in the news that I think is significant. It's huge. It's a big, hairy deal. You may remember this show was extremely supportive of in Alabama, it's called the VCAP bill, the Vulnerable Child and Protection Act. A friend of mine, Shay Shelnut, we served together in the Alabama State Senate. He was a Senate sponsor for the VCAP bill that was passed into law a couple of years ago by our Alabama legislature, signed into law by KIV. It is the bill that says that Alabama will not allow transgender treatments and or surgeries on minors. Boom, done. Not going to have it. Well, that became all the thing. And next thing you know, of course, you've got the ACLU and you've got the SPLC and you've got GLSEN and you've got Human Rights Council, all of them swooping in on Alabama, filing federal lawsuits. I do not understand how the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama took that lawsuit on and decided to keep it. I would have quit my job before I would have taken that lawsuit. But working in the Biden administration, a Republican-appointed U.S. Attorney for the Northern District actually kept that case alive until recently when they finally dropped it. Well, now they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to at all. You know why? Because the Supreme Court of the United States came out today and ruled that Tennessee's. So what happened was there were multiple states that did this. The one that made it to the Supreme Court was Tennessee. Not because the rest didn't matter, just because of the posture of the case and because the Supreme Court chose to take that one up, knowing that a decision on that would deal with all of them. Alabama's Attorney General Steve Marshall filed a brief in support of Tennessee's efforts. The case was known as Skermeti. I've forgotten what the actual the plaintiff's name was, but the bottom line is Skermeti, being the AG for Tennessee, was the named party to defend the case. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled in a 6-3 ruling today, get ready with your applause, that those states who pass such laws like Alabama's VCAP and Tennessee's bill, it is constitutional to do so. There you go. That is huge. You got all the sound effects. You're trying to recoup those points you lost.
No.
Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall, like I said, did file a friend of the court brief, and Justice Clarence Thomas actually cited some of the things in Marshall's brief in his concurring opinion. And then Thomas said in his opinion, the number of children identifying as transgender has surged, and medical professionals have increasingly expressed doubts over the quality of evidence supporting the use of any puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries to treat them. So basically what he's saying is the evidence is not there to support that this is necessary. At the same time, they upheld the rights of states to say, not in our borders, not going to happen here. So right now, Tennessee and Alabama have led the nation on making sure that children are protected. Steve Marshall, who is now running for the U.S. Senate, by the way, Steve Marshall came out and said at the same time, he said, until a few years ago, the notion of providing sex change procedures to children was practically unthinkable. But so was the idea, he said, that the judiciary is the best branch to sort through the evidence and decide that kids suffering from gender-related psychological distress must be allowed to take powerful hormones and permanently change their bodies and leave them sterilized. What he's basically saying is, there's never been a time in the history of the world where gender meant nothing and where the decisions about medical procedures was left to the courts. So what he's saying there is it's the legislature's purview to take action on this. And we did. And I praise God for it. So, yep, there you go. Breaking news on that. The ruling came out just in the last few hours. 6-3 decision. The Supreme Court of the United States upholds Alabama and Tennessee's bans on transgender surgeries and treatments for minors. I'm loving that. Take me to a break, JP. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. Going to start cooking up some home fries. Yeah. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. I'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right. So, every once in a while when I'm prepping the show, I start looking at things and I go, wow, that's a big deal local story. Oh, hang on a second. That one's Alabama. Oh, wait a minute. That one's Tennessee. Our listening area needs to know about that one. And then I realize what I'm really doing is I'm spending a lot of time putting together things that matter to our own backyard. That means we got to cook up a batch of home fries. Yeah. Yeah. Cook them up. I think one of the biggest stories right now is Redstone Arsenal. I mean, pick one, but Redstone Arsenal is like on fire right now. And I got to tell you, I grew up at Redstone, right? So I've said it on the show before. My dad lived on Redstone. I'd in and out the gate all the time, ran through the woods there as a kid. Lived down on Skinner Drive. I still remember the name, Skinner Drive. And then right behind Skinner Drive was where my grandfather lived when he was post commander as a kid, Brigadier General McBride. That's back when it was a one-star. A one-star had Redstone Arsenal. Now there's like 3 and 4 stars there, if I'm not mistaken, like multiple of them, like the Milky Way. But what I'm saying is that Redstone has grown so incredibly just in my lifetime. There's just an incredible story about how it all came about. I've got the book at home, but Ray Jones from Alabama, from Huntsville, Alabama, Ray Jones, Carl T. Jones. Ray Jones wrote a book about his dad, Carl Jones, and that's the Jones family. If you live in the Huntsville area, Jones family has the Jones Valley Farm, just a beautiful oasis of green in the middle of the city. But the Jones family was extremely instrumental in trying to convince the United States Army and the government not to do away with Redstone. At one point, they were literally thinking about just getting rid of Redstone altogether. And this would be like the, late 50s, I think, early 60s. Anyway, they saved it. Look at what's going on now. A story I've got here in my hands, and JP, you may have to help me on this because we were talking beforehand. I've got a story from Yellowhammer dated a few days ago. FBI is considering relocating its National Academy training program to Huntsville. Okay, this is not everything at Quantico. This is not brand new FBI officers. They'll still go to Quantico to their training, but there's a thing called the National Academy. It's a 10-week leadership program for local, federal, and even international enforcement officers. It's a special deal. It's a big deal. But they're talking about putting the FBI National Academy at Redstone. And what the article I've got, JP, is saying that it's in the works. It's being considered, that Dan Bongino is heading up the study on it. But I keep seeing headlines. Do we know? Has that been approved? Is it been like finalized?
I don't know. I'm not finding like a specific headline on it, but I do remember Katie Britt and Tuberville and all the Alabama delegation,
Dale Strong, yeah,
like thanking them for it. So I don't know if it's like official, but like I think it's going to happen. Yes,
I think it is, man. I mean, this is huge. So anyway, part of a broader effort, it says, under the Trump administration to shift elements of the FBI's operations out of the D.C. region and to expand the presence at Redstone. Well, right now we already have like upwards of, I think, 1,500 people in Huntsville that work at the FBI's existing facilities. They're bringing in an upwards of 500 to 1,000 more. And now they're moving not just operations, they're actually moving the FBI's National Academy. That's just cool. You add Space Command to that, and Redstone is literally on fire, just on fire. I was out there not long ago, and it still blows me away. When I was a kid, I used to go in what's called Gate 8. Gate 8, which was out there on, oh gosh, what's the name of the road? I just forgot the name of the road. But anyway, Gate 8 is now like a minor gate. The main gate into Redstone is massive. I mean, you're like 6 to 8 lanes across going in, and yet you still wind up having to wait in line a quarter mile to get to the gate just to get in. Unbelievable. So yeah, that's a big old hairy deal. Stand by for more on that one. We'll keep watching, and I'll let you know when I hear it. A couple things that are happening in state politics, things you got to know, things you want to be aware of. So Catherine Robertson, I know Catherine Robertson. She's great. She worked at the Alabama Policy Institute. She actually was there before I was there, but I met her when I was still a state senator, and she was working for API. She'd come back and forth to the state house and work on conservative policy issues. She's a super sharp individual. She's been Attorney General Steve Marshall's senior advisor. So she was vice president of API. Then she went to work for the AG's office, and she has been the senior counsel to the attorney general now for probably, I would bet, 6 years or more, maybe 8 years, his entire tenure, I guess. But the bottom line is she just announced she's running for AG. So here's the thing. Now, Attorney General Steve Marshall has already endorsed her. He actually went to her opening event or kickoff event and announced her as, please help me welcome Alabama's next Attorney General, Catherine Robertson. Now, I say that because she's extremely qualified for the job. She knows the gig. She knows the office. The problem she's going to have is name ID. Because I bet I'm saying Catherine Robertson, and most of y'all are going, who? You ever heard of her?
I haven't, no.
Say, and you've been, working the conservative radio thing now for over a year.
Yep.
About a year and a half, really, isn't it?
Yep, just about.
So if you haven't heard her name and you're in a daily position to hear her name, that's what she's going to have to overcome. It's not that she's not a good candidate. She's a great candidate, but she's going to have an uphill climb on name ID because she's never run for office before. And the guy she's going to be running against, Jay Mitchell, has been a statewide office holder on the Supreme Court of the state of Alabama, meaning he had to run for the seat and people at least know his name from being on a previous ballot. So, yeah. Stand by for that. But Catherine Robertson is in the mix. I see that Jeff P. from Arab just checked in. He says Gate 8 is on Goss Road, and yet it's blowing up big time. We're working on it. It's Training Academy. It's huge. Yeah, that's just good. When my dad was in Vietnam, we lived in an apartment building right with Patton Road. That's where I'm thinking about. Patton Road. The Patton Road apartments. We used to live there. I can tell you exactly which one was mine. I'm talking kindergarten, preschool. Dad was in Vietnam, but it was a big deal. All right. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, Emily Jones, the controversial mom. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on Hump Day. We are halfway to the weekend, and we're just about halfway through the show. So let me go to the phones right now. I'm bringing on somebody who is more than a friend of the show. She's like part of the Rightside family. Emily Jones is the founder of Moms for Liberty in North Alabama. She's been a contributor to the show multiple times. She's also the host of one of Rightside's podcasts, The Controversial Mom, and she's on the phone like right now. Emily Jones, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. I'm glad you're here. It's been, how long has it been? We hadn't had you on the show.
It's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while.
That makes no sense.
You know, the Doge making people go back into the office has really interfered with my radio time.
Darn. Well, hey, listen, I'm doing this segment, Home Fries, and you and I were texting yesterday about you coming on the show. You were telling me things that I hadn't even heard about. Like one of which is we've got state legislators like Senator Arthur Orr and some others that are signing something called a parental pledge. And I don't know, parental right. What is that going? What's going on with that? What's the deal?
Yeah, so part of the Moms for Liberty effort is to reclaim June back from the crazy leftists. So Moms for Liberty declared June Parental Rights Month. So we have been doing things all across the country all month to just reinforce a parent's right to raise their children. I will not remember the name of the court case, but it was 100 years ago, Supreme Court case where the government or the Supreme Court ruling declared that children are not a product of the state. They are to be raised by their parents. So we're celebrating that in various ways. And one of those is through the parent pledge. And we have two different versions, one for our elected officials or candidates seeking office to sign it that basically just says, we stand for parental rights and we will do everything in our power to encourage parents to take responsibility of their kids and for the government to kind of get out of the way. So we've been trying to get people to sign it all month, and Arthur Orr was the first one that had responded back and said he would love to do it. So he sat down with a couple of our members last week and was the first official person in Alabama or legislator in Alabama to sign the parent pledge.
Outstanding. Let me ask you, have you had any legislators say no?
I've had a lot of them not respond, but nobody to just outright say no.
Okay. Sometimes no response is a no, but
that's right.
But I'm loving the fact y'all are doing this. And by the way, I'm also loving the idea of taking back the month of June. Can we take back the rainbow while we're at it too? I want my rainbow back.
I want all of it back. I want all this nonsense out of my sight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of which, parental pledge, getting rid of the June, garbage. I guess you saw that the Supreme Court of the United States upheld Alabama's ability to pass the transgender treatments on minors law that we passed a couple of years ago. Did you see that today?
I did, and I was at work, and I saw the bubble pop up on my phone, and I was ecstatic, and everybody thought I was crazy. But nobody follows politics like I do. It's super exciting that they stood behind that, allowing states to enforce those laws, because while we do support parental rights and parents certainly can raise their children how they want, that is very abusive mentality, and parents should not be pushing it. If they have a child that's confused, they need to be seeking mental health, not surgical or pharmaceutical. So extremely happy that they stood behind that and are allowing states to really push those laws forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know this question, but it was the Scarametti case out of Tennessee. Did Moms for Liberty National, did they provide a brief to the court or anything? Did they participate in any way in that? Do you know?
To my knowledge, they have not. I think if they were involved in it, we would have heard about it. I want to say ADF was involved in it, but I could have that wrong.
I believe they were. But I know that Attorney General Steve Marshall's office here in Alabama did contribute to the case.
Catherine, you were talking about her earlier. Catherine mentioned that it was actually their FOIA request prepping for our case that pretty much solidified the stance for Tennessee's law. So they had a huge role in that.
Well, and this is a big deal. And I hope that more states are going to follow suit now that they know the path has been cleared. But I'm also glad we didn't wait for the path to be cleared. We went out and got it cleared.
Exactly. And that's what leading does, right? I mean,
exactly right.
You do the things that are not always easy, but they're the right things to do. And you have to lead. You have to make the way. So I'm glad that Alabama was a part of that.
Well, speaking of leading, You guys are leading on having an event. I was pretty stoked to be at the one you had with Riley Gaines. Was that last year or the year before?
It was last year.
Last year. It feels like a long time ago, but it was just
Mm-hmm.
last year. But this year you've got one coming up here. Saturday week? Tell us about the event and who your speaker is.
Yes, so it's our annual fundraising dinner where really we just focus on raising money for our local chapter. It is the only fundraiser we do, and we try to make it an event where people gain a lot out of it to justify the cost. But it's going to be here in Huntsville on the 28th. It's going to be at an area. It's called Stove House. If you're familiar with Huntsville, it's the old stove manufacturing area. They've revamped it. It's super amazing area. But it's at the Brewers Co-op restaurant within Stove House. And our keynote speaker this year will be Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I am so stoked to have her here.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And I've seen her speak before, not like been in an event, but I've just seen snippets and stuff. And I think she's a pretty effective speaker. She's got a pretty type A personality. She gets to the microphone and you pretty much know who's in charge at that moment. And I look forward to hearing what she has to say. So that's good.
Yes, and
go ahead.
She's filed a lot of legislation around gender affirming care too.
Yeah.
So the timing of the court case from the Supreme Court is really lining up perfectly for her. So I'm sure she'll talk a lot about that next week.
Well, so that's next week. If folks, and listen, I'm not trying to make the whole segment about your event, but I think it's a great event. I'm planning on being there. Rightside is going to be there. But if folks want to go to the event, do you still have tickets available?
We do. We're selling tickets through Friday, probably into Saturday. We don't have a whole lot of tickets left, and that's honestly just because of capacity at the space. So it's not just we don't want to sell anymore. Like, we're truly at a capacity issue. So we'll let them roll through probably Saturday morning, and after that, we're probably going to be full and have to shut it down. So there's still time to buy it. There's still a few sponsorship options left. If people are interested in those, sponsorship just gets you early access. So you can get in, maybe mix and mingle, talk to MPG a little bit. And everybody that gets a ticket also gets a copy of her book that she released last year. So you're definitely walking away with something from the event other than just pictures and good conversation.
Not only am I going to be there, though, I'm contributing some Rightside merch. So there's some stuff coming up there too. So if folks want to get a ticket, where do they go to get it?
It's probably easiest just to Google Moms for Liberty, Madison County. It'll take you to our website and the links there.
Okay, perfect. I got to ask you though, Huntsville's had its protesters lately. We had the No Kings event, which I think was fairly benign, but it was there. But is anybody promising to protest the Moms for Liberty, Marjorie Taylor Greene event?
Oh yes. So many protests on this. There has been a lot of communicating with local law enforcement and the owners of the spaces that we're going to be in because of the threats of protests. I think I heard that they had actually put in like a permit to be out on the Governor's Drive area. But I saw something the other day. I don't know that they're going to be in the Stovehouse area. I think they're going somewhere down near South Parkway to do their little protest event down there, almost a counter event more than a protest. So they'll be somewhere in Huntsville. I just don't know where, but it's okay because we got plans in place. We're going to have an amazing event with an amazing speaker, and it will be positively memorable.
And I say it all the time on the show, but there's more of us than there are of them. So I mean,
yes.
I feel like it's going to be an amazing event. And I mean, by the way, if they had to bring in an opposite of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who would it be? Would they bring in Ilhan Omar? Would they bring in AOC?
Oh, I have the best answer. It's Marjorie Taylor Queens because it's a drag queen show.
Wait, are you kidding?
I will give them 2 points for creativity.
Okay, you just made that up, or is that real? What are you saying?
No, that's real. That's real. That's what they're doing.
No.
Marjorie Taylor Queens. Yes, it is.
No, that's the most obnoxious thing I've ever heard in my life. JP's typing in his
very
computer.
creative.
Are you looking it up right now? Marjorie Taylor Queen. Give me a laugh track. You got a laugh track on that? We got to have something. That's just unbelievable. Holy cow.
That's a good one.
Oh, all right. Well, Emily Jones, listen, your podcast continue to be amazing. We got a lot of people watching it on our stuff, but the Controversial Mom comes out every Sunday, and we appreciate you being part of the Rightside family. And I can't wait to be at the event and look forward to it.
Yes, I'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you, my friend. See you.
Bye.
Marjorie Taylor Queen. Is that real? Are you finding it?
Well, I'm seeing articles about it.
Is there? Can you post something online on the live stream?
I'll see if I can find a good picture of it. Yeah,
that's just sad. So we're going to bring in a congresswoman who, whether you like her or not, she's a congresswoman. She's a firebrand. She's out there, working for conservative policies and politics, and they're going to bring in a drag queen. Name it Marjorie Taylor Queen. That's
at least it's creative.
Maybe they'll raise money for the monkeypox task force while they're at it. You better take me to a break. I got to recover myself. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll get some text messages when we get back. Y'all stay tuned. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, hey, listen, I got to finish up these home fries. I got a few more things here in the stack, and I just might as well just like breeze through them. I think one of these stories I got from, AL Daily News. Alabama Daily News has a piece. I almost find this to be ironic. But U.S. Representative Dale Strong, our congressman from the Huntsville region, Congressman Strong has announced the creation of what is known as the House Golden Dome Caucus. So the Golden Dome being Trump's version of the Iron Dome, it's a air defense umbrella, if you will, over the United States, designed to neutralize, potential missile and drone threats. But U.S. Representative Dale Strong has formed a Golden Dome caucus because it's believed that a large part of the Golden Dome effort, work, development is going to happen, again, at Redstone. Well, he's forming it with Colorado lawmakers, which I find to be almost ironic because I guarantee you they were duking it out over Space Command, and now they're working together on that. That's the nature of politics. One day you're again you, and the next day you're for you. But that's happening right now. That story on Alabama Daily News in the last couple of days. I got this story too. You might want to know that Governor Ivey's being sued. JP, remember we had Kent Davis on the show?
Yep.
The former Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs commissioner who was ousted by Governor Ivey. He has filed a lawsuit.
Figured he would.
It's a no fooling lawsuit too. And he sued her, which I don't think this will stand. I think parts of this will get dismissed, maybe the whole thing, but he has sued her in both her professional and her individual capacity because he says her attacks on him were personal in nature. He claims that his termination constituted a violation of his constitutional rights, lack of due process. He's demanding reinstatement or front pay, back pay, and punitive and mental anguish damages. All right. So I don't know that they'll get there, but he's also saying that basically what she did was malicious and fraudulent. And I got to tell you, that was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. That was the biggest shoot yourself in the foot, self-inflicted political wound you didn't have to have. There are ways to have handled that weren't done. And I think part of that is because Kay Ivey struggles for leadership right now.
It was really bizarre.
It was very bizarre.
And then there wasn't something that he wasn't invited to an event after that, or there was something like that where it was like the staffers were being petty. Can't remember exactly what it was, but it was just,
I don't recall that, but I know veterans groups are just ticked.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they had no representation in the whole thing. And then the guy who took my place in the state Senate, Andrew Jones, he goes out there and makes some kind of a hoodoo deal with the Ivey administration. And he's out there trying to float the bill to redo the entire state Veterans Affairs office. And that went over like a turd in a punch bowl. So just saying, that's quite the graphic too, by the way. Turds and punch bowls are very bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple that are weighing in on the Tennessee listening area, just so you know, all y'all in our Chattanooga audience. So the mayor of Nashville continues to be a jackwagon. I've got a story here out of WSMV. It's actually it's probably about 10 days old, actually, but it's still real. It's still alive. So you may recall that Mayor Freddie O'Connell, ultra liberal, has been defying ICE's ability to detain illegal aliens in one of the largest cities in the Southeast, Nashville. And Mayor O'Connell has been issuing executive orders requiring that all state all municipal employees have to report anytime they're contacted by ICE. Well, that puts a chilling effect on everything that ICE does. But when you look at it, you gotta know this. The man's under investigation for it now. The Department of Justice said this will not stand. You will not impede the ability of ICE to do its job. One step further, though, is that a congressman from the same region, actually, I take it back. It's a state. Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton has demanded that the mayor rescind his order, and there are plans in place right now to run a Senate bill that literally says you can be jailed if you're a public official who disrupts ICE's efforts. I don't know if they'll get that passed. That's a big lift. But when you look at the fact that the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader in the Republican majority are both saying they want this bill, if leadership says they want the bill, I'm telling you, that bill's got legs. They're not in session right now, so we'll see what happens. But I think the mayor of Nashville better get his act together, because he's doing himself no favors. And he may be in a purple city, but he's in a red state, and he's going to have to come to grips with that. And he's also, oh, by the way, living in the Trump administration's era. So read the room, dude. We want to see our border closed, and we want to see you cooperate. And you don't have to be out there promoting ICE's efforts, but you sure can't impede them. There's that. All right, I got a ton of text messages. Some of y'all are reacting to the Marjorie Taylor Queen thing. We'll get back to those here in just a minute. And then coming up after the break, I'll be jumping into a discussion about what's happening at the southern border. I gave my monologue earlier. If you didn't hear it, there were some amazing statistics that are so worthy of being discussed. And then some other things that are happening in terms of the southern border and ICE's efforts and all of it. I'm calling this the migration dissipation, because we just went through, a complete debacle for 4 years. Alejandro Mayorkas. Where is that guy right now, by the way? Does anybody know where Mayorkas? Hello, calling Mayorkas. Does he even have a book deal? Or is he just been buried in a hole somewhere? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about it. I'm serious when I say it. This show goes from like Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I'm talking about down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the border from there to what we once again get to call Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Y'all, I'm talking about this show is like covered up with people that are watching live online, getting it podcasted afterwards. Listen, the bottom line is we love all y'all. Thank you so much for making this show something worth doing. We appreciate you. So I got text messages. I got a lot of text messages. Dave from Capshaw says, Marjorie Taylor Queen and Green. Is that the actual view?
It is, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, this is one of those occasions where I believe that the real woman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, could actually whip the fake woman's butt. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure she could whip most men. Pretty sure.
I would concur.
Mr. Hill from Pumpkin Center. Hadn't heard from you in a while, Mr. Hill. Glad to hear from you. So we used to have to wait 9 months before you knew if you were having a boy or a girl. Now sometimes we have to wait 20 to 25 years. No, sir. No, sir. Not no mo. Ken from Harvest says, hopefully June will become Parental Rights Month. Until then, happy Charlie Pride Month. That's right. John, the Navy Corpsman, says, isn't Gate 8 on Hobbs Redstone Road? And then he says, I guess not. Listen, unless they change the numbers, Gate 8 used to be on Patton Road. But
I have no idea the gate numbers either.
I just go to the gate that I can get into. And then what aggravates me is when they find out the gates have closed. It's that way down at Benning too. Go to Benning. I was leaving to go out the gate, and the same gate that I came in, I now couldn't get out. So I had to turn around and find my way to another gate. And to get, it's like,
holding you hostage.
Why do y'all do this? But the real kicker on Fort Benning is when they used to reverse the roads. So in order to flush the traffic from daily workers, they would actually, the road you came in on would be reversed, and it was one way only going out. And so suddenly you didn't know which way to go. It was the most confusing thing I've ever seen.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's not healthy, put it that way. Dave from Hazel Green says a couple things that are happening in Phil. It's Gate 8 Drake Avenue.
I think the first part was your voice on the radio picked up on his voice text is my guess there.
I am so lost. Okay. Drake Avenue. Okay. I think it's Drake and Patton. It was like Drake and Patton. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay. Gate 8. Penny from Athens says, Phil, I just saw this video on Facebook of trans activists harassing a senior citizen. I can't open it because I'm on the air right now, but I see you sent me a Facebook link. But I have no doubt. Shameful, shameless, no shame. Barry from Athens says, I remember Saddam Hussein telling the world how we would be facing the mother of all wars. That's some scary stuff. Yeah, I remember Baghdad Bob. There is nothing to see here. There are no American troops on the outskirts of Baghdad. All is well. We are well here. All is well. Baghdad Bob. Wonder where he is now. Baghdad Bob. Do you ever heard Baghdad Bob?
I've heard of him, but he was before I was born.
He was a meme before memes were memes. He would literally stand up there with his beret on and his Iraqi uniform going, there is no problem. There is no problem. There are no American troops. We're on the outskirts of Baghdad. There are no American troops. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that all happened like 2 years before I was born. Just barely missed me.
Jack from Huntsville says, on my first international business trip, I flew to Israel. I was sitting next to an IDF officer on the plane. I told him I thought they were the right stuff. He leaned over to me and said, let me tell you a secret. It's not that we are so good. It's that our enemy is so bad. Wow. That's a worthy quote. Put that one on a bumper sticker. Tammy from Huntsville says, Hobbs is Gate 3. It's closed tomorrow. I guess it's closed for Juneteenth. I just learned the courthouse is closed tomorrow for Juneteenth.
I forgot Juneteenth was even a thing until you reminded me.
Yeah. Jeff from Athens says, follow the science. That's what we were told with COVID, trans, etc. They were just telling us to follow the political science, not the actual science. There, you know what? That's a great line. Political science versus actual science. Thank you, Jeff from Athens. Can you give him some applause? That one, well coined, sir. You are the wordsmith of the day at this point. Hey, let me tell you some things about Dipper number 2. We won't spend a lot of time on it because coming up top of the hour, we'll switch gears and go to the Grand Council. But I got to listen, if you heard my monologue earlier, what we are seeing in numbers at the southern border may be one of the most epic turnarounds in the history of turnarounds. The first 120 days of the Biden administration, the Trump administration, have dynamically altered the course of human events. I say it that way on purpose. Dynamically altered the course of human events. Think back to what we were seeing on our southern border. Can you remember the images of, waves of people trying to cross the Rio Grande together, of having to bulldoze the trees off that island in the middle of the Rio Grande to make sure that we could see who was out there? We had drug traffickers and human traffickers shooting at ICE and CBP agents on the far side of the river. We had remember that bridge was it Eagle Pass, I think? One of the major, but the bridge, there were thousands of people literally camped out under the bridge. It was a mass of people. It was like some kind of post-apocalyptic movie. We had millions of people streaming across our border. And in December of 2023, 2.5 years ago, no, 1.5 years ago, in December of 23, we had 370,000 illegals cross the southern border in 1 month. They were seeing upwards of 4,500 to 5,000 a day. A day. And I said in my monologue, that's not even a border anymore. That's a super highway. That's just absolutely asinine. And yet they said the border was closed. The border is secure. All right. Last month, May 2025, a little over 100 days into the Trump 2.0 administration, they've gotten it down to the point that they only saw sometimes in like less than 100 a day. And of those 370,000 in December of 23, most of those were allowed to come on into the United States. Last month, zero went into the United States, released from the illegal crossings on the southern border. Zero. Hit me some applause, dude. That's so worthy. That's a major event. I've got a piece here from Daily Fetched. I hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands, but Daily Fetch has a story, Dateline yesterday. The United States is seeing a reversal of mass migration. For the first time in 50 years, more people are leaving the U.S. than are arriving. Think about what I just said. We just saw 11 million plus stream across our borders unfettered in the last 4 years. Suddenly, just 4 months into the Trump administration, we have more people leaving the U.S. than we have arriving for the first time in 50 years. Economists at 2 Washington think tanks, it says, expect President Donald Trump's immigration policies to continue driving this reversal from the near total shutdown of the southern border to international students and the loss of legal status for many new arrivals. A net outflow of immigrants could stoke inflation, it says, a risk economists already expect from Trump's tariff policies. So this is all the sky is falling stuff from the Washington Post. But then it points out, at the same time, we're looking at mass migration has been shut down. Like we were buckling under unsustainable levels. And now all of a sudden, we're seeing over 1 million green cards have been issued. But at the same time, we're watching deportations and even self-deportations exceed all expectations. In fact, piece from the New York Post. Nearly 1 million illegal immigrants have self-deported under Trump. Think about that. Here's the thing. Apparently, they did a study, and it costs upwards of $17,000 plus. Once you detain an illegal, you have to house them, feed them. You have to give them medical treatments, and then you have to deport them after they have a hearing, which means they have to have representation. It costs an average of $17,000 per illegal to get that done until they're deported. The Trump administration thought, well, why are we doing that? $17,000 each? How about this? Hey, we'll give you a plane ticket and $1,000 if you'll leave. We have had 1 million, plus or minus, 1 million illegals self-deport now under that plan. They're saving massive amounts of money by doing it. That's genius, by the way. That's just leadership. Another one I pulled off of the website from Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR. They've got a story here that says when President Biden took office in 2021, his administration quickly did away with a policy that allowed U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to issue notices to appear. In other words, they broke the system, totally broken. Suddenly, we have a reversal. FAIR is reporting that as of 2 days ago, USCIS has now placed more than 26,700 aliens into their removal proceedings. In other words, what they did was Biden's team just loved parole, which meant, hey, come on in, go where you want to go. Here's your date. Please show up in about 3 years. Nope, not doing that no mo. We have 26,000 waiting on their hearings right now, and that's a big deal. Now, I will tell you, there's a couple of more pieces that I'm going to cover with you that I think are interesting. They definitely play into the dynamic. Like, what is it? What did the Mexican president say? Why does she think she can weigh in? What is Scheinbaum saying? By the way, why is the Mexican president's name Scheinbaum? That's like the name you would have for a Jewish grandmother from New York.
Yeah, it doesn't quite make sense.
Anyway, Claudia Scheinbaum had something to say that I think is very interesting. We'll tell you about it when we get back from the break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We're talking about the migration dissipation. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, coming up at the top of the hour, we'll be switching over to the Grand Council with Jeff Poore and Dale Jackson. So stand by for that. Hey, Penny from Athens just texted in. She heard my monologue earlier. And I mentioned in the monologue that all of the issues with illegal immigration, while it is definitely dissipating, while we are seeing a major turnaround in securing our southern border and in dealing with illegal immigration, that it's still here. And there are still things happening even in our own backyard. And she brought up the fact that I mentioned that 1819 News reported that, I think it was yesterday, I think the report may have come out today, but the arrest was yesterday, that state, local, and federal law enforcement busted a cockfighting ring in Blount County, which is like Aniana, that area. It's kind of like central North Alabama. But a cockfighting ring, they arrested 60 people on site. Of the 60, 55 were illegal aliens. I mean, they're just like traveling in herds.
Well, with the other 5 dudes, just some random redneck down the road that want to get
no idea. Maybe their date, who knows?
Yeah.
But Penny from Athens says, you mentioned about the rooster fighting ring involving illegals here in Alabama. Said, I've been to Mexico many times. Rooster fighting there is legal. They hold them at fairgrounds, sometimes having a concert before the rooster fights. Yeah, it's messed up. All right, let me tell you the story. So Claudia Sheinbaum, president of Mexico, got a piece here from FAIR.us. That's the Federation for American Immigration Reform again. This came out in the last couple of days. They point out that Claudia Sheinbaum took issue with the fact that the big, beautiful bill, the one that includes all kinds of things, it's an omnibus bill, but part of what it deals with is matters to impact and secure issues on illegal immigration. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum made headlines by threatening to mobilize. Threatening to mobilize? What does that mean? Pray tell, Mexico. Is it time for the Alamo again? What's happening? Threatening to mobilize, she said, those are her words, in quotes, against a proposed tax on remittances from the United States to foreign countries. So here's the bottom line. People come here from Mexico and other countries. They work and they wire money home. It's a thing. It's a lot of a thing. The big, beautiful bill contains a 3.5% tax on that, and we're doing it on purpose. I've said this for years. In fact, as a state legislator, I tried to get that done at the state level, but I was told that we didn't know how in the world to make that happen. Well, it can happen. Look, if you go to, a lot of times you can go to like a Mexican restaurant, you can go to a convenience store, and you'll see a little symbol on the door. And I'm trying to think of what the name of the one they use most often is, but it's a service kind of like Western Union that wires money back to South American, Central American, and Mexico, the countries. These are called remittances. They're remitting money back home. America loses $200 billion a year in remittances. $200 billion a year gets sent out by people who, by the way, it's their money. I get it. But you know what? Illegal immigration brought millions here. They are sending money home. The Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress have said, you know what? How about this? We're going to take away that carrot, and they're putting a 3.5% tax on it. Sheinbaum's remarks were not well received. According to Senator Eric Schmidt, he said, America's not the world's piggy bank. We don't take kindly to threats. Chip Roy from Texas said, we ought to make that fee a lot higher. Mexico itself receives $62.5 billion every year in remittances from America, just from America. And when you look at it, that's 3.5% of their GDP. 3.5% of Mexico's GDP. Well, listen, that's actually smaller than what they have in Honduras and Nicaragua. Nicaragua is 26% in remittances is their GDP. 26%. Dude, that's a fourth.
And none of it's taxed, apparently.
It just goes. We just fund it. We just say, send your illegals here, let them work, and they can send all the money back home. So anyway, that just happened. And oh, by the way, the big, beautiful bill is still working its way through the Senate. We'll see what they do. Right now, they're working on whether they can make some bigger cuts in spending. But I think that the remittance tax is very likely to stay in place. All said and done, you guys, it's a whole new day. The migration dissipation has been epic to watch, and not a little bit. This was one of the biggest issues in the entire campaign season. Like this and the economy were it. They go back and forth. Which one was number one? Which one was number two? But illegal immigration was one of the biggest concerns of voters. And Trump came in with a promise. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know there's a lot going on with Iran and Israel and economic policies and spending cuts and all that. But right now, that southern border may be the biggest win that we've had. It is absolutely an epic win. It is chalk it up in the win column win. It is recorded in history right now as perhaps one of the biggest turnarounds of any piece of domestic policy in the history of the United States. 370,000 illegals in 1 month, most of whom were released into the nation. 0 last month.
But I think most importantly, it shows how easy it's been this whole time. Like it didn't need to pass legislation or anything else. So in the future, God forbid, if another Democrat is in the White House and they try to pull we need to pass this legislation, or it's not as easy as you think. We need Republicans. It's just simple can be. Just shut the thing down.
Yeah.
So
just allocate the assets and shut the thing down. Well, they did, and they did it well. Brian from Harvest just checked in. What did he say right here? He said, "What did I get a partial text? What is that?"
You asked for the service that they use for.
It's called RIA.
I guess. Yeah, I think so. He said that in when we were talking about that.
Okay, good enough. All right, coming up next, Grand Counsel Jeff Poor, Dale Jackson, this little old me, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on Hump Day. This is the time when, we play the camel at the beginning of the show, which means that somewhere around hour number 3, we're going to jump on into a thing we call the Grand Council. I bring in 2 of my brethren in talk radio, and we just kind of sling the questions out there and see where the chips may fall. Now, right now, I'm going to call the roll, but I believe we have an absentee. It takes 2 to have a quorum, so let me see what I got. Looking northward to the beautiful community of Huntsville. I'm talking about 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN, host of the Dale Jackson Show, writes for Yellowhammer, does a TV gig. Dale Jackson, are you there?
Oh!
You are indeed. Stand at ease. Now, I believe I have an absentee, which means he may have to wind up doing push-ups when the time comes. But I'm calling for Jeff. I'm calling for Jeff Poor. I'm calling for Jeff Rowe, Jeffy Jeff, DJ Jazzy Jeff. There is no DJ Jazzy Jeff, but I'm going to say 2 makes a quorum. Hit me some Grand Council.
The Grand Council.
Ba-da! Dale, what'd you do with Jeff? He's on your show on Wednesday mornings. What'd you do with him?
I don't know, but it might be time to think about replacing him full time with Yaffee. I think that might be what we have to do.
Is Yaffee in studio with you right now?
He is not at my house. No, he is not.
That's right. That's right. You got the home studio. All right, dude. Well, let's have me and you opine back and forth. We'll just see what we got. First question. I'm going to sling it to you. What do you got?
Okay, so Katie Britt, the senator from the great state of Alabama, was just on with Jake Tapper, because Jake Tapper is a totally serious newsman and a very important guy. Britt was talking to him about the Republican Senate committee where they were discussing Joe Biden's health, which is pretty interesting because Jake Tapper wasn't there when you would think the guy wrote a book and did all this research, might have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But I guess he wasn't interested in having that conversation. What can be done about this? I keep hearing who's going to be held accountable for it. I mean, what's the crime? I mean, the auto pen thing, maybe, but that seems like a bit of a reach. What are we doing here?
Yeah. I mean, so the bottom line is, first of all, there's, I think it's 2 parts. One is there's a desire to know. I mean, I think the American people deserve to know what happened. Even if we wound up getting into a place where statute of limitations had run or something like that, I think that the American public absolutely deserves to know if someone was usurping the authority of the office of the presidency. But then the other part is that's a crime. And so if there were people who were enacting laws, in a sense, functioning as if they were the president and they were not, that's absolutely a felony, and heads are going to roll. So whether we'll get there or not, I don't know. But I think that one of the biggest things is friggin', we just want to know what's going on. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I think that's fair. I keep hearing hold them accountable. And unless that just means I want to have a conversation where I basically yell at them, I don't know who you're going to be holding accountable here. Although I'd like to see them try. I really would, because I think what happened there was illegal, no doubt. I think it's a lot of nefarious stuff going on. And I think that this needs to be gotten to the bottom of.
No, yes. In fact, it needs to get gotten to the bottom of, because we don't ever want to see it happen again. There have to be safeguards. They have to be things like, for instance, Trump said they've got the logs. They can see who logged in to use the auto pen. Well, okay, let us know who logged in to use the auto pen. But then again, you may have logged in with authority. The question is, did they have the authority? And we know for a fact there were times when Biden was at his beach house and the auto pen was working in the Oval Office. So did he have the authority? Was he even aware? So there's got to be safeguards put in place on this. All right, dude, I'm trying to figure out which question I want to go with. Let me go with this. The whole, are we going to bomb Iran thing? You're welcome to chime in on your thoughts on it, but here's one of my first questions. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson, both of whom have been, conservative, basically more to the far right side, but they've been conservative icons. They are absolutely adamant that we just don't do anything at all, and that it's a sacrifice of the office of the presidency if Trump does. What are your thoughts? Are we seeing a fractured GOP right now, or is this going to be just a few who are opposed?
I think what will happen is Trump will do what he does, and then eventually everyone will come back around and say, okay, maybe that was the right thing after all, because I think what's going to happen is they're going to drop a bunker buster bomb on it, and that's going to be the end of this. I think that's what's probably going to happen, or 2 bunker buster bombs, whatever. Eventually, I don't think we're going to have troops on the ground. I think the Tucker Carlson interview with Ted Cruz. I mean, yeah, Tucker Carlson owned someone himself. I mean, it was just, I didn't think it was any good. I thought what he did there made him look bad and silly and like almost childish. And trust me, I do some pretty childish interviews. So I'm an expert. Okay. I get it. But I just thought that Tucker Carlson, I thought he looked bad there. This idea that he didn't know the exact number of people in Iran, therefore you can't see that it's a terrorist state and there needs to be a change and the people might have uprising. I don't know. I look, no boots on the ground. One more thing. I'm sorry, but we did not lose the war in Iraq. We did not lose the war in Afghanistan. We took those countries out very, very quickly, and then we asked our soldiers, "Hey, why don't you guys just hang out here for a while? Don't do anything."
Yeah.
But why don't you guys just hang out here and be targets for a decade? That's what actually happened. And I think I don't think we're ever gonna. I won't say never, but I don't think we're gonna do that for a while. We will not be playing Sim City in Iran.
No, I agree. Oh, Sim City, what a great analogy. No, I agree. I think that you're going to wind up seeing potentially the bunker busters. Yes, I think you're going to see some massive sanctions. I think you might find out later on there was some covert activity to get some bomb damage assessment on the ground. But for the most part, I don't think we're going to see U.S. forces heavily engaged. But we're going to see U.S. forces leaning forward in the foxhole in such a way to give pause to Iranian leaders, if you will. It's a whole lot to say about seeing a carrier strike group show up in your region. It means something.
And there's already talk of maybe Ayatollah looking towards an exit with Russia or something like that. But it's kind of funny. Saudi Arabia is being quiet. Jordan's being quiet. In fact, Jordan's helping, so they're letting the Israelis fly over him. But that's another thing. Saudi Arabia is being quiet. Qatar's being quiet. The UAE is being quiet. And I've only made this joke 15 times, so I'm gonna do it again. UAH is being quiet. UAB is being quiet. All these places are being quiet. The only complaint is coming from the far right.
Yeah.
The left has nothing to say about this. They don't have anything. You don't hear them saying anything about this at all. And it's quiet. And you know what? The left does a much better job of not pretending that like Ilhan Omar is like one of their main spokespeople. And I'm not saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene is as extreme as Ilhan Omar or anything, but they say their thing and then they just like, okay, yeah, great. Nice. You said that. We on the right, I'll speak for myself as someone who considers himself a conservative, we argue about whether or not Marjorie Taylor Greene represents a larger group of the party than she does. And she gets an outsized amount of influence when she does talk.
By the way, I got to say, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be in Huntsville Saturday week at the Moms for Liberty event. I just had Emily Jones on the show. Have you heard that the left is doing a counter protest or a counter event, and they're going to have a drag queen named Marjorie Taylor Queen?
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's an 85-15 issue. Why wouldn't they jump all over it and try to make a thing? I mean, look, you know what else? I guess 83% of Republicans and 79% of adult Americans are about stopping Iran from having that weapon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Iran is. We can say this now. Iran is no threat to us. Like that. I mean, that's the thing. They're no threat to us, but they want to be. I mean, that's the thing that people have to understand. They want to be a threat.
They want to be, and if they had the ability to,
they would
take a nuke and sell it to somebody or use it themselves, they would. And they believe. By the way, people don't realize that Shia Islam, radical Shia Islam, which is what the clerics in the mullahs are in Iran. Radical Shia Islam believes that they will usher in the day of the Mahdi. That's their savior. They'll usher it in by creating destruction. That's what they believe. He'll ride in on a wave of destruction, and so they need that. They want that. It's part of their faith-based radicalism. At the same time, right down the road, Saudi Arabia is Sunni, and they hate the Iranians, the Persians they call them, but they hate them. And the Crown Prince Abdullah has already said this will start an arms race because we will dedicate ourselves to getting a nuke so that Iran is not the only nuclear power in the Middle East. That's going to be a bad day if that happens.
Absolutely, and it's not going to happen now. I mean, I think this might be the end of Iran. We've worried about this day for decades. Someone called my show today and was like, "This has been going on since 1996. They've been saying they've been wanting to get a nuke since 1996." Yeah, because they have. I mean, they've been wanting to, and now they got close to it. That's the argument.
Yeah,
the argument is they got close to it. But the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz interview was interesting in the sense that he asked him how many people were in Iran, and he didn't know. And Tucker Carlson was like, "Oh my God, you don't know?" And then he said, "Well, what's the main ethnicity there, or whatever demographics?" And Ted Cruz said, "Persian, mostly Shia, And Tucker Carlson, yeah, you don't know. He was right. That's exactly what they are. But it goes to show you, Tucker Carlson had no follow-up for that. That was a gotcha question.
Gotcha question.
And he thought the next one would be, and then he was, because it wasn't, he just laughed and moved on. I mean, that was bad for Tucker Carlson, I thought.
All right, dude, I got to take it to a break. That's round one with a 2/3 quorum on the Grand Council. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just pulling pins on truth grenades. All right, listen, we are going right back to the Grand Council with Dale Jackson and now joining us, Jeff Poor. So applause for Jeff, please. Thank you. Jeff, thank you. We're glad you're here. I'm going to go ahead and pitch it to you, Jeff Rowe. First question, second round. Take it. What you got?
So now y'all hit the Iran question already, but we got some candidates for federal office, U.S. Senate here in Alabama, and then obviously you got everybody running for Congress. What's the right way to do it if you're running for the Republican nomination in Alabama?
Right way to do what? The Iran thing?
Yeah. Well, what position you take? I say that when Barry Moore and Jerry Carl were going at it, Ukraine was a big deal. Does this matter?
I think it matters, but I don't think this was going to be Ukraine, because I don't think we're going to wind up having this protracted ground war. I think we're going to wind up seeing the demise of the Ayatollah's regime with a bombing campaign, much like we saw Bosnia, which more of a bombing campaign. But that being said, it's a big deal, and I think the thread the needle kind of thing is where people are going to wind up being. I saw where Coach Tommy Tuberville came out and basically said, we don't want boots on the ground, but he trusts President Trump to make the right decision. Iran can't have a nuke, but we just don't want to see boots on the ground. And so I think that's going to wind up being the mantra. Dale, weigh in.
Yeah, that's the exact right position. I mean, that's it. That is the exact right position. We'll help you. Hell, we'll even fly a couple planes over. But we are not doing a situation where you get to run around and put boots on the ground. I think that'll be the right position. 83% of Republicans support stopping Iran. It's that simple. 79% of all Americans. It's a little different than Ukraine because it's drug on for so long. And I just don't see this being that complicated.
Plus, I think too, you can look at it and say, we know that Iran's regime has taken Americans hostage. We know that Iran's regime has killed American soldiers. We know that Iran's regime has shouted death to America while trying to get a nuke. So I think that there's a little bit more here. Ukraine, we're like, Ukraine who? But with Iran, everybody sees that as being the guy on the far side of the ring who's ready to do harm. And we don't want it to happen. It's your own question, Jeff. What are you thinking?
Well, I guess if perhaps we're still talking about this when it really matters when people are voting, then we got problems, right? If we're still talking about this in 2026 at some point, then we got problems. If this goes away like you think it will, then yeah, I suspect you're right. But I don't, if it's prolonged and this is something where we got to clean up a mess, it might be something that haunts Republicans.
I'm gonna make a somewhat bold prediction. I'm gonna bet that the bombing campaign has got about 2 weeks left in it, and it's going to be major. And there's going to be some measure of participation by U.S. planes dropping bunker busters, and then we're going to be able to say, ain't no way they're ever building a nuke. And then the Ayatollah's regime is going to start cascading downward in a spiral as the people begin to rise up in the streets. And about 6 months from now, there's going to be a reverse Iranian revolution. That's what I think the best case scenario is that we're looking at. I don't think we need to build a new Iranian government. They need to do it themselves. But I think that there's going to wind up being an overthrow of the regime. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Ayatollahs flee the country. But we'll see. Next question. We got about 3 minutes. Dale, what do you got?
If I locked arms with, I don't know, let's just pick a January 6th guy in my audience and the cops came to arrest him and I was like, show me the warrant, show me the warrant, show me the warrant. Would they drop the charges for me in the first minute? Because I know no one's above the law, but I also was heard by Kathy Hochul, whose face, I don't know what happened to that thing. But she said that, how dare you touch an elected official? I mean, so no kings or some kings? What are we doing here?
So yeah, the bottom line is, ain't it good to be a Democrat, right? And by the way,
damn Democrats got it good as the branding. But go on.
I know. I just want to let you say it yourself. I didn't want to steal your thunder. But and by the way, Kathy Hochul looks like Play-Doh went bad, but nonetheless,
it's rough.
But nonetheless, yeah, they tend to get away with everything. They can storm in on the Department of Homeland Security secretary and then claim later on they were the victim and cry on the floor of the Senate. They can try to protest outside the gates of an ICE facility and chest bump law enforcement and pretend that was okay. They can call for violence in the streets, Maxine Waters, and it's like constant. I will say this though, that Monica McIver, the one who she got indicted, and I'm looking to see what's going to happen with her. And I think the Democrats are staring at that as like, oh crap, they might actually like.
But why let the other ones off? Why not charge Padilla? Why not charge this latter guy?
I have no idea. But
what with MacGyver, everybody else at that thing in New Jersey worked out some kind of deal with the sitting U.S. attorney. With her, she was like, she wanted to fight, and she refused to even talk to the prosecutors, and they said, "All right, we'll proceed."
Yeah, and she earned it too. By the way, you watched the video, and it was awful. It was not just like resisting, "Don't touch me." It was like getting in their faces, screaming profanity, chest bump.
She was throwing that big body around.
She was, and she got the elbow in the back of one law enforcement guy's head. It was messed up. She needs to go. I tell you what, Jeff, do you want to take one 30-second question?
Sure. Barry Moore getting in the race. That's the rumor next week. How will that make it a 2-man race, or do we? I mean, I guess you like Jared Hudson as well in that contest, but what does that do to change the race of the U.S. Senate?
I think Barry's running the risk of sacrificing a good House seat, to be honest with you. But Barry's a viable candidate. He's got a great voting record. He's strong in the Wiregrass. I just don't know that he's strong enough in Northeast Alabama. The other one to watch is Morgan Murphy. He's going to come in and make waves. So I think you're going to wind up having a horse race, and it's Steve Marshall's to lose still. Dale, real quick, 10 seconds.
Same. I wish Barry Moore would stay in Congress personally. If he's not, this is not going to be a slam dunk for him at all. It's going to be tough. He's probably going to lose.
There you have it. Grand Council, Jeff. We're glad you made it. All right. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We have the Grand Council every Wednesday, brought to you by the folks at DeKalb MD. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. It covers down all the way from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that beautiful, loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn. Straight across the border, what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. Oh, by the way, that's just the radio audience. Then there's all of y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the big World Wide Web and tuning in on live stream with YouTube, with Rumble, with X, with Facebook, and our website. And then podcasters, thank you for that too. We got a ton of y'all that podcast the show. So we appreciate you. I say it at least once an hour. This audience is the reason why we get on the mic every single day. Thank you very much. All right, so let me jump on this and say the Grand Council we just did with Dale Jackson, Jeff Poore, brought to you every week by DeKalb MD. DeKalb MD, their healthcare simplified. So DeKalb, as in DeKalb County, DEKALB. DeKalb MD is a direct primary caregiver with a network of clinics in like Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee. They've got 2 locations in our Chattanooga audience, 2 locations in Chattanooga. They operate on a monthly membership, y'all. Can you imagine going to the doctor and you don't have to worry about insurance? You pay $75 a month. It's like joining a gym, and you go to the doc whenever you need to. $75 a month. You get same day or next day scheduling. You get longer visits with your healthcare provider. You get after hours access. They'll even give you like a direct phone number you can call or text your provider. And over $1,000 worth of medications they can mail right to your house. I'm just telling you, DeKalb MD, man, they work with you, not with your insurance. How cool is that? So yeah, it's DeKalb MD. It's primary care with you in mind. Here's their website. I'm going to encourage you to check them out. And oh, by the way, maybe even call and make an appointment. That's www.decabmd.com. decabmd.com, primary care with you in mind. Sponsors of the Grand Council. I got to ask, is this me or do the lights get brighter in here? What just happened? I feel like the lights are brighter. Is it my eyes? Is it something happening?
I think it got darker outside, so
Okay.
it looks lighter inside.
It just feels weird. I feel like all the lights got brighter, like something happened to the voltage in the building. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Let's don't do that. We have too much equipment. Text lines are open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. All right, I'm going to ask my millennial guy over here.
Millennial?
I'm sorry, Gen Z.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's an insult.
Hang on. Have you ever heard of a band called the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus?
No.
Are they real?
I don't know.
Why do we care? The Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Apparently, the lead singer of the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus announced yesterday, if you're a Christian and you voted for Donald Trump, shame on you. You're not allowed to come to my shows. I don't want you there. And I'm thinking, does anybody go to your shows?
I'm about to say, I've never heard of this band before.
Okay. I realize I'm not hip with all the new ways you young people have.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing
Get off my grass.
Well, I'm seeing this band had songs in 2006, so I think they're probably grumpy millennials themselves.
I saw where Zeke Arkham texted out or tweeted out. He goes, I was today years old when I learned there was even a band called Red Jumpsuit Apparatus.
I agree. I've never heard of them until now.
Okay.
Maybe that's just a publicity stunt for them, though.
Or maybe they're just like a nothing burger and we don't know why they're even being talked about.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in my last dipper of the day. And by the way, y'all text in if you want to, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. I'm calling this one Fixing What Joe Broke. I mean, we could just do like we could do a thing like once a week.
That's kind of the phrase of the whole presidency at this point.
Fixing What Joe Broke. Trump 2.0, Fixing What Joe Broke. Here's one, and I'm loving this. And this is really even beyond Joe if you get down to it, because Republicans are part of the problem on spending too. Doge. I'm not done with Doge. Doge was a big deal. Doge is still a big deal. Business Insider magazine has a piece that came out a couple of days ago. Congress is now taking the first steps in making the Doge cuts permanent. They'd better. Listen, they cannot call themselves conservatives. They cannot even bother calling themselves fiscally minded if they don't start putting some of these in place. And the only way to do that is to codify them. So Business Insider says the House just passed a $9.4 billion in Doge cuts. It comes 1 week after Musk and Trump's feud exploded into public view. 4 Republicans voted against the cuts to public broadcasting and foreign aid. Psh, whatever. But the package of cuts now heads to the Senate, where its fate still remains uncertain. But this could be the first of multiple rounds of Doge cut bills to start taking. And I get it. They can't do them all at one time because you can't just say anything Doge is now official. You got to research them. They got to do the cross checks. They got to look at conflicts of law provisions. We did it in Montgomery all the time. You can't say you're going to just pass this law unless you know for a fact how that law interacts with other laws. And so they've got to repeal certain things. They got to write certain things in, and they got to say, if this, then that. But the bottom line is right now, 9.4 billion, which, we had like hundreds of billions of dollars in Doge findings, but 9.4 billion, the first Doge bill has passed by a very narrow 214 to 212 margin in the House. It's a start. I say, get her done, man. Get her done. Fixing stuff Joe broke. Whatever happened to electric vehicles? Are they still a thing? I guess Tesla's still out there.
Yeah, they are. The Cybertrucks are still awesome. I don't care what anybody says. So yeah, they're still out there.
There's one in my neighborhood, and by the way, it's painted black.
Oh, they're just. I'm probably gonna get trolled on by listeners telling me that they look like erasers. But if you're telling me Cybertrucks aren't cool, you're either lame or lying. One or the other.
Well, listen, I got to say this though. Tesla, Elon Musk, everything he touches is like top of the line, very cool. There is like zero design effort in the exterior of a Tesla truck. Why does it look like that? And why is it called a truck? There's no bed.
There's a bed. You lift it up.
It's a hatchback. That's a Pinto. You got an electric Pinto is what you got.
I mean, I don't know. There's a certain vibe. It's like a futuristic design, but
do you know what a Pinto is?
A Pinto?
See, I knew I said that and you ignored me.
Yeah,
which meant you know.
A Pinto. No.
That was a hatchback car from the 70s.
Oh, yeah, nope. I mean, yeah, I feel like it's the Cybertruck bed's pretty big, but it's hidden. But yeah, I digress.
It's a hatchback. Just call it a hatchback. But the styling. Okay, this is a total rabbit chase.
Yeah,
squirrel. But there's why does it look? I mean, couldn't they have done more? I mean,
But why? I feel like it's cool as it is, and it can take like a. I don't think it's bulletproof, but I mean, I know Joe Rogan tried to shoot an arrow through and it didn't go through, so like it's kind of built to be safe, know. But
I feel better if Native Americans start attacking my Tesla truck.
I don't know. It looks cool. I guess it's not. If it's not your vibe, it's not your vibe. But I think it looks pretty sick.
I will say this: they're freaking fast. Mm-hmm. They're amazingly fast. They're deceptively fast, but still, that's what they came up with. You got how much in design effort and all you did.
I mean, it's the minimalistic.
I could have drawn that on a napkin.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have looked as cool as a
I mean, it does look like the shape of when you're a kid and you draw cars, just like, and there's your car, and then draw 2 circles for tires.
I don't know. I think it's like a tank, like a futuristic tank.
Okay, so but your bottom line saying is you could buy any vehicle right now. Is that the one you'd get? Like if you like budget be darned, what would you be buying?
I think that's on the list, but also I like old school. I mean, I think my realistic dream car is just like an old school Camaro. So like, I mean, that'd probably be up there, but the Cybertruck is on the list for sure.
Okay. If somebody said you're going to drive a Cybertruck, would you have range anxiety? Would you be worried about charging, or would you get over it?
I probably would, but I feel like I'd get used to it. Like my friend in high school who had a Tesla at the time, he still has one, but when he had one in high school, he was actually late to our senior trip because he forgot to charge his Tesla the night before. So I'd probably take some getting used to, but I probably would have some range anxiety at first. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, if you go on a trip and like everybody else, you park your car in the airport garage, do you come back and find that the battery died while you were gone, or does it hold its charge like forever and ever? Amen.
I don't know. I think it holds its charge when it's off. I could be wrong about that. I've never owned an electric vehicle, but
if I know for a fact you got a family trip coming up in the near future, and if y'all are gone for a week and you come back and there's your EV sitting in the garage, is it going to crank when you come back?
I would think so, but I could be wrong.
You're making that crap up.
I don't know. I feel like that'd be pretty bad in today's era for like, if you turn your phone off, your phone doesn't lose charge. So I'm sure if Elon found a way to not lose charge when it's off.
Okay. President Donald Trump, according to Daily Wire, revoked California's electric vehicle mandates, which have been adopted by nearly a dozen other states nationwide. That's what triggered this whole conversation. That's what triggered my questioning about why Tesla even looks like that. Tesla truck looks like that. So this is a fairly new article. I like it. Trump said, "We officially are rescuing the U.S. auto industry from destruction by terminating the California electric vehicle mandate once and for all." If you're not familiar, by the way, for whatever reason, there are multiple states whose liberal state legislators have been lazily adopting whatever California does as their standard, almost like it's a model standard, kind of like you have the International Building Code for things or the Model Building Code for it. They've been saying, what's California doing? Okay, I'll tell you what, our law is going to say whatever California's electric vehicle mandates or emission standards are, we're going with them. And they've just been doing it. Well, Trump said, okay, then guess what? I'm not going to make every state be held captive to California's crazy politics, which is where it's gotten. Now we've got states that don't know how to get out of it because they're stuck with whatever California's loop-de-loos did. And so Trump said, I can do that. I'll just gut it. I'll just cut the knees out from under it. So the bottom line is the move, it says, made possible by Trump signing resolutions of disapproval under the Congressional Review Act, was celebrated by groups that represent automakers like GM, Stellantis, Toyota, Hyundai, Volkswagen. The fact is these EV mandates were never achievable, said the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. In reality, meeting the mandates would require diverting finite capital away from EV transitions to purchase compliance credits from Tesla. That's like the whole thing was a mess. So the bottom line is this. California was the gold standard, except the gold wasn't real and it was tarnished and they threw it away. So there's that. All right. Take me to a break, JP. We'll take the break. We'll come right back. If I have time, I got to tell you, there's a few other things on here about Trump fixing stuff. Like, for instance, did you hear about the major sting on sex predators? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. Hey, I'm going to the phones here momentarily, but I got to finish this one story in the Fixin' What Joe Broke segment. There's a headline here on AmericanMilitaryNews.com. American Military News is really not all military, but this one is. The headline is 244 child sex predators were arrested, 109 kids rescued in a major FBI operation. This came out last week. The FBI announced on Tuesday that 244 child sex predators were arrested and 109 children rescued from online sexual exploitation in a recent operation just in Texas. This is the FBI doing this. I'm not going to go to the whole story. I don't have time, but let me say, here's why I brought this up. Because this is not something that just happened in the last 120 days. The only way this could have gone down to the extent that it did, it means that they had the information and weren't able to act on it until the administration changed, in my opinion. That's what we're looking at. We're seeing multiple things like this around the nation, arrests that are being made, investigations that obviously were done and nothing done about it, that are suddenly having results. 120 days into his campaign, a major FBI event here. They rescued 109 kids, arrested 244 predators. And the only way that comes together that fast is if it means the FBI had the information already and they were just finally allowed to act on it. That's big doings. All right, I got a brand new texter in the line, Perry from Chattanooga. We're glad you're there. Perry from Chattanooga says, Total Recall, the Cybertruck is as retro-futuristic as it copies the trucks they had on Mars. That's right. I can see it in my head now. Thank you very much. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yep. And then John from Huntsville has the grades. He says, Jeff Poor gets a D- for missing half the Grand Council. Well, JP gets a C-. Wow. For a below average performance. Dale Jackson surprisingly gets an A+ for one of his best performances, which means today's co-winners, nearly perfect A++ are Phil Williams and Emily Jones for spectacularly equal performances. Congratulations. By the way, JP, Pinto is a type of a bean and a type of color pattern on some horses. There you go.
I know about the bean.
And it's a Ford. It's also a Ford.
It's also a car.
Let me go to the phones because Jeff Rowe from Indiana is on the line. Hey, buddy, how you doing? No. Yeah. My mom had one of those. I was a kid driving to elementary school in the Pinto. By the way, no car seat, sitting in the front. Yeah, man. I'd be standing up in the back seat talking to my parents. What's up? Um, what you think, man? What you think about all this stuff today? I wonder if Joe realizes he's not in office anymore. Well, he spent so much of his presidency at his beach house that if he goes to his beach house, he might still think he's in his presidency because nothing changed. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get that. I agree with you.
Go wrong except for bearings, and stuff like that. So,
And most importantly, there's no
they,
range anxiety.
exactly, and that's why if you got a Cybertruck, you can throw one of those little Voltaggers in the back there underneath the hatch just to give you peace of mind.
Voltagra. Yeah, we still need to copyright that for you because you came up with that, and there needs to be like some kind of like Tesla bumper stickers with Voltagra on it or something.
Yeah, it'll cure your range anxiety. I guarantee it. Especially if you got an older vehicle.
Where you at right now, dude? Where you at on the road?
I'm coming up on Goodlettsville in Tennessee here, doing about 5 miles an hour because people still don't have a clue how to merge. But they are building a third, making a third lane here where it's coming down to 2 here. So hopefully one of these years it'll be where we can just keep on moving.
Listen, I know Nashville's not Knoxville, but I used to drive through Knoxville all the time, and it was like perpetual road construction. There was never a time that I can recall that there wasn't road construction. It just like never ended. It was the construction that always was going on. So is Nashville that way?
Oh yeah, kind of. And Knoxville's kind of weird because it's really not that big a city, but yet a lot of congestion for some unknown reason. Because every time I'd go through there, it was like we're slowed down and we don't know why.
Yeah, exactly. And then you hit Chattanooga, you're like, what are we doing here? Why are we crawling? All right, I could complain all day, but I got to go right now because the show is over, my dude. All right, be careful on the road, buddy. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one, Phil.
Yeah, man. All right, listen, I say it all the time, but I mean it all the time. There are more of us than there are of them. That's exactly right. And God is still very much on his throne. And I'm going to tell you right now, you need to stay in the fight. So all that to say, we love this audience. You have an amazing night. We'll see you tomorrow.